Clay is a 4-letter word. My guest today is Pilar Swanson where are you from?
I am from Newberg, Oregon. I teach over at Amity, Oregon.
And what part of Oregon is that?
The
left, right, up, down?
Okay, so if this is Oregon and Portland is like here, and you go like south, like west-ish, like toward like Independence, Eugene area, it's like in that kind of country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So you're like in the kind of more rural part of Oregon? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. To me, suburban Southern California, the rural life kind of sounds cool, but I don't know. We'll see. One day. I don't know. Anyways, so thanks for being on the podcast. We are both educators of young adults in the ceramic and visual arts. So it's cool we get to talk some shop of the nuts and bolts of teaching a little bit, and the adventures that we deal with on a daily basis that not people realize, like, this is a job and this is something that people do. And sometimes I can't believe I get paid. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, thank God I get paid because I hate this paperwork and stupid crap. But anyways, what's your story and kind of what's the Pilar Swanson version of ceramics?
Oh man. I've been thinking about this all day. So I didn't touch clay until like I was in 7th grade. Because I went to Mark Twain Middle School in like Silverton, Oregon, which is a small like little old mill town. And my art teacher, then Mrs. Hayscamp, I can still remember her to this day, would be the person that would first introduce me to clay. But even then, I remember making this like really awful, like just straight coil dragon and these really sad, pitiful like slab bookends that were just 2 small slab pieces that didn't hold anything. Now that I think about it, I thought they would because you're young and you think you're invincible.
Yeah.
And that would be like the first and kind of last time I believe that I touched clay until college. I didn't take any art classes in high school, like at all. It didn't occur to me to take fun classes, not at all. I drew a lot. I was the kid that always was doodling in the margins of her papers, but didn't take any art until college. I went to George Fox University, and that was when I took my first actual ceramics class. I learned how to hand build, and then learned how to throw on the wheel. But unfortunately, like I met my husband at the time, and so I didn't realize how cool of a thing I had. I would take art classes and I thought sleeping in and hanging out with my boyfriend and at that time was cooler. And so I went through, like kind of the steps and like, yeah, whatever, I'll create something. And so throwing really wasn't my thing in college, mostly because I hadn't accepted failure and I sucked at it. And so I was like, whatever, I'll fake it till I make it, right?
Yeah. I'm still faking it.
And it didn't really occur to me how little I knew about ceramics until after I graduated from college and after I graduated from my graduate program, that I was like, hey, I am legally labeled a professional according to my teaching license, and I want to do ceramics in my high school. I know nothing. And so I spent a good part of my summer learning how to I retaught myself how to throw on the wheel, and I took a bunch of ceramic classes, and I really got submerged into ceramics when I started really teaching ceramics, and that was only like 4 years ago, if not 5. And my ceramics really started kind of like developing and kind of changing when I became pregnant last year. Yeah. So I was listening to what was it, you and was it Jeff Kowalski? Kevin, sorry.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah, Kevin.
It is 9:00. So you and Kevin, how you guys both agreed pretty much that you're like, you guys said that you guys started to get serious after the birth of your first kids.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's kind of true.
Yeah.
And I just really started getting serious, and I really wanted to try and push myself, and my work is completely different from what it was, and I'm still learning. Like, is that the dog?
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, and I'm still learning, and I'm really excited with what I am producing. And honestly, that is like where I am today, and with my
Uh-huh.
current body of work. And so I'm still
Okay.
very new at it, but hours of failure have made me proficient in education.
Yeah. So like let's go back. So when you were in college, what was
Mhm.
you took ceramics classes, but what was your major?
I became okay. So, journey. So my
Yeah.
freshman year, I was a chemistry major. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I
Okay.
changed to education sophomore year. And then junior year, I went like interdisciplinary majors. So at George Fox, you can like make a blend major, but you had to have like approval in order to do it. And so I went
Uh,
education art. And then I decided my senior year, I was like, well, I still want to teach. So fresh in the fall of my senior year, I went full blown art.
okay.
And so I was required per my major, art major, to take art classes. And
Yeah.
so I decided,
That
yeah,
works, right?
yeah.
You should
And
take our
so,
class for a
yeah.
major.
And so I took a lot of ceramic classes because I was like, screw being a graphic designer. I can get
Uh,
computers most of the time, but not to that level. And so
yeah.
I was one of the few traditional artists in my
Yeah.
department.
It's a small school, right?
It, at the time, yes, it was a small school.
Okay.
It's grown tremendously since I've left.
Okay. So, and then I know on your Instagram profile it says you're illustrator and photographer. So
Yeah.
you were kind of doing all those in college?
Yeah, so I took a photography class. It was an old school film photography class. Like
Okay.
we learned how to develop, and I fell in love with it. And photography has always been an interest of mine, and I, like pursued it individually. And later, that would actually get me to teaching yearbook at my high school.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun and stressful at the same time, but I enjoy it.
It seems like a sucky class to teach.
It's
To be
hard.
honest,
It
it seems like a very like you have a deadline and a lot of people are relying on you. And as a teacher, I know the yearbook every year is at our school. I'm sorry, Miss Walker. I'm sure you're not listening to this, but every year the yearbook is like full of errors and people are like and that's
Yeah.
our yearbook. And I
Yeah.
remember one year our yearbook didn't have visual arts page because
Oh, they forgot.
they
Yeah.
forgot it or the kid that was in charge of it like messed up. So yeah, I know we've had a lot of yearbook drama at my school, so I'm like
There's always yearbook drama.
that seems like a scary class
Yeah.
to teach because there's a
It,
lot of
I enjoy teaching it, and I have my hurdles with it. But yearbook definitely teaches high schoolers in a very, very close to real life example
yeah,
of this is what the real world is like, regardless if you're like your grandmother or you died or whatever, you're expected to do something regardless.
yeah,
And like it's a real
yeah,
hard reality. And
yeah,
the kids don't realize that. And especially if you're working with like a small class, because in the past the yearbook class has had 15 to 20 kids, and I've
yeah,
culled so many kids out of that class to like 5 or 4. Like my staff is between 4 and 8 people every year. And
yeah. It's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work, but it's manageable at the same time. Trying to
Yeah, just
manage a
keep up
book,
with it.
it's crazy. It's fun, but I enjoy teaching it. The hardest part, honestly, is teaching them composition. Like
Mm-hmm.
you
And
it
photography or just
photography's easy. They get that. My kid, I spent a long time teaching that. It's the composition of like a page, how like digital layouts are completely different from printed layouts until you visually see it and you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense.
mm-hmm.
Because right now, a lot of websites are organized to fit mobile devices. They make
Right,
sense. If you were going to go for printed and have it look like a mobile device, people would be like, wait, what? Um,
right.
the more edgier kind of graphic design that I've seen lately is leaning toward more of a like a mobile layout, because people are just inundated and continuously exposed to that layout, like via like
Absolutely.
Instagram, Twitter, just it's how your phone organizes any website. It
Yeah. We're all addicted to our phones.
yes,
And
we
our
are.
phones were replacing our laptops and
Yeah.
computers. And they're still nice to have a
Mhm.
computer, but so what other art classes do you teach?
Uh oh
So you
gosh.
do
I
yearbook, ceramics.
Yes. So
How
I
many hats are you?
Oh God. On a given year. So I teach one class of middle schoolers. They're 7th graders, and they get the gamut from clay to drawing, painting, you name it. They're fun.
Just art.
Yeah, it's just art. It's a survey
Art.
class.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
cool.
they're fun, crazy but fun. And then I have media arts, which is more visual arts, like 2-dimensional stuff, like painting, drawing, some mixed media, collaging. And then I have my multi-blend class, which is Open Studio, Ceramics 3, and then Media Arts 2. Media Arts 2 is just one more year into Media Arts 1, which is like my kids already know your technical skills like value shading, composition, contrast, and I'm just pushing them harder into like, okay, you got the skills now. Now I want you to do a 5 to 7 shade stepped value scale within this still life with 5 pieces while only using hatching. And they're like, okay. I think I understand, but okay.
It's like a challenge, yeah.
Yeah, and my Open Studio class, which is a newer class this year, is like my kids are going to be replicating kind of a artisan residency where they are given the space to create a body of work, but they have to understand deadlines. So they're literally simulating kind of like art school, make a thing for me, but follow this deadline. And I just assigned them the artist proposal where they're going to be like sitting there and thinking about what it is that they're going to make and what they're going to focus on. And I told them that this is probably going to be the hardest thing that you are going to have to write about versus a research paper. Because, you know, research papers are like, write about this topic, defend it, or, you know, state against it, XYZ. And they're having to write about something very original and provide research and further like analysis and reflection on that. And so we'll see how that goes. And then and
this is high school?
Yeah.
Are you doing the AP stuff?
I did last year, but my kids that were in it, they didn't submit because they realized it was hard. And so I am AP certified, but no AP this year.
But you picked a good year to sit out because they completely changed it for both.
Yeah.
And it's like hard to understand. So any of the AP studio art teachers, 3D studio art teachers, hey, round up because it's confusing.
Yeah.
The new requirements are confusing for the AP, and it's not that the requirements are confusing, but they have these like essential questions they have to answer, but they have to write their own essential question and answer it with their work and answer it. And I'm kind of like so used to the old format where it was just like make like 20 pieces or 18 pieces of like breadth and concentration and like talk about. And I did that. I'm like, boom, you guys just make a bunch of crap all year and like figure out your concentration and then make a bunch of stuff. And then when it comes down to it, we're going to photograph it and we're going to hit it hard for like a couple days and like write the crap and submit it. And and this year they changed it. So I went and became certified the year before they did it. And my teacher, she is, I can't remember her name for right now for the life of me. But she had known that they were going to change it. And she's like, and she repeatedly said, I shouldn't be telling this to you guys, but I am. And she's like, they're going to change it. And it sounded like they were going to go like more like IB, that route. And we're like, wait, what? And so I knew the change was happening before I think most people did. And I was just curious as to what they did. But I guess it's a good thing I sat out. But yeah, it's just more, there's no model. There's no like, not to say like there's nothing to copy, but there's like nothing to copy. There's no one like has done it before. So until they do it and it gets, you know, graded the way, I don't know how they're going to grade it, you know?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I have a weird relationship with the AP. Like I honestly hate the AP stuff and I try to talk kids out of it, but at the same time I don't. And a lot of the kids that do the AP with me, it's like the only thing they would ever do AP. You know, they wouldn't take any AP classes, but we'll be like, hey, like you're good at this art and like you'll be up to the challenge of doing this. And it's kids that are going to go to college. Like, hey, you're getting some college credits, you know? And it's like, and I've had kids. I had a kid that got a 5 and he just made a bunch of really nice pots. He just made a bunch of nice pots with nice glazes. And when we wrote about it, he wrote about it. Like he wrote about it. And then I'm like, okay, like this sounds, you know, I just like proofread it. And like, this sounds stupid. This is good. This is bad. We would go back and forth and I would like help him, you know, make it sound academic. And I'm always like, just talk about elements and principles. Just talk about color line, value, shape, texture, space.
Mm-hmm.
Within your work of pottery, wheel thrown pottery with pretty glazes, and the kid got a 5, and I was like, oh shit, like this AP thing ain't that hard. Throw nice pots, pretty glazes. Just talk about what it is, and like keep it simple. Not that that formula has worked 100%, because not all my kids that have done AP since then are just like, I just want to make nice pots with nice glazes and talk about that. And I've had some kids that try to go a little, and like I got a couple 3s in there. I got a lot of 3s and a couple 4s, but I had 1 5, and the 1 5 I got, he made pretty pots, pretty glazes, and just talked about the elements of art. And I thought I had it figured out.
I feel like the elements of art in 3-dimensional work is a little bit easier to describe than 2-dimensional.
Yeah, for sure. And it's very literal in ceramic.
It's like, it is very literal.
It's a texture. It is a form. It is a color. It is how we use those together. And yeah, so yeah, I'm sure once all the AP goes through this year, you'll probably get the lowdown about what's good and what's not. Sounds like you have a pretty interesting kind of setup, though. Like as far as you have a lot of different classes you teach.
Yes, I do. So when I first got hired into my position, first off, at my high school, which is Amity High School in Amity, Oregon, it's a 4A school, I think. Okay. I can't remember. It's tiny. Like our student population is about less than 200. So it's tiny. Like our graduating class last year was small. I think it was like 45 to 55 kids at a senior class graduation. That's tiny. You're like, what? Give me an idea.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so like my biggest classes are like 25, sometimes 30. But if like in a ceramics class where you're doing hand building, that's a little tight when you're bumping elbows.
Oh, for sure. Oh yeah. My class one day. It's crazy. I would love to. That's 5 periods a day of like 33 kids at a time. Well, no, I take it back. I have 3 periods with 34, and I have 2 periods with like 25. Oh, wow. But then there's another teacher that's connected to me. Mm-hmm. We have 2 ceramics teachers, and she has 5 classes of like 33 kids in a class.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like, we have more kids in ceramics, and
oh yeah.
And they're not all, and they're like, it's like a fact. We're like a fact. We just have a lot of kids doing ceramics, and
because it's a fun class. It's fun.
It's a fun class, and we. Hey, I don't know what happened right here, but I lost like 14 minutes of our conversation. But we talked about being teachers mostly, so here goes back into our conversation.
So, how I have it set up, how it's easier now, but the only classes that I'm really prepping for seriously are like yearbook right now and my Media Arts 2 class. Everything else has been planned out. So
okay, yeah. That can be a lot of work. Like people don't realize it. As a teacher, like you have
so much work.
And like I get so pissed off because people are like, oh, you're an art teacher, you don't have that much work to do. It's like bullshit. Like
it's honestly, like for me, like it's the setting out the materials and going, okay, wait, what? Like, what am I teaching this class?
It's so much materials management.
It's
like, because it's like different. Like in college, it's like college professors, like, here's a list. I don't know how it was for you, but when I was in college, like, here's a list of paper. Go shopping. And this is the shit you need for your art class. Whereas high school, public high school, it's like, hi, students. Welcome to the public high school. I've provided everything for you at your earliest convenience, and take whatever you take, all the tools, and it's not like unlimited whatever they want, but it's like these are the tools and these are the clay, and I got to order the glazes, and I have 300 kids in ceramics between the 10 sections of ceramics we have at my high school. It's like insane. Yeah. And it's like to order clay, and we changed from cone 10 to cone 6, and it's like new glazes and new clays.
God. That is a big change. Wow.
Yeah, because so last year I got hooked up. Kevin Kowalski, he teaches in my district. Yeah. He got hooked up with Amico, and they hooked him up with our district with like the mold of the jar, like the Amico jar. Yeah. So the 4 high schools each got a jar, and like a mold of the jar. We could slip cast or press mold it. We just press molded it, and then like 4 of the boxes of like all the Amico, the small, like the small glazes.
Mm-hmm.
So my kids were so like into like brushing all their glazes on, and we had done a Dia de los Muertos thing where we were using stroking coats. But me and my colleague, we both noticed like how much more they were engaged with brushing the glazes on and being more careful and specific about like, and we still had all the like cone 10 glazes we would dip, like the regular cone 10 stuff. But it's like they really like doing these. They really are more engaged in this, and if they'll like slow them down and they'll make better work. Sometimes they just go fast and they make crap, and it's just like. So we're like, let's just make the switch to cone 6, and then it's environmentally a little bit better because it's like I kind of care a little bit, and I'm always a little concerned about like, as ceramic artists, where are we in the environmental? Are we?
Yeah.
Are we helpers? Are we hurters? We like to think we're helpers, but at the same time, are we like burning fuels and electricity and consuming raw materials at a unreasonable rate? It's not going to stop me because I feel like it's done with the best intentions, and it's not at a level of industry of like, we're a pretty small section of the world of consuming materials and ceramic artists, but the switch just kind of made sense because we had more options at cone 5 and cone 6, and so we're just making the switch, and it's a lot of work. And I'm lucky I have a student teacher this year, so she's kind of taking 2 of my classes, one of my other, the Lauren Schultz, who's the other ceramics teacher. She's got one of her classes and 2 of mine, so I have more time during the day when she's student teaching to like do all this glazes and stuff. But then I'm like, this is my life, I'm worried about, I have to make a switch from cone 10 to cone 5. Like, this isn't the worst problem to have as an adult. Like, okay, this is a big project, but this is like, I'm doing ceramics and I get paid to do some stupid ceramic stuff, so
totally.
It's pretty awesome. So, and I know you said that your personal art practice started to pick up when you got pregnant.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Like, what do you think? I don't know my kind of opinion about why I think it clicked in my brain, but do you have any idea why it kind of happened for you?
Oh gosh. I want to say honestly, like, because like, I don't know if you remember, like, your wife going through like this nest, like that burst of energy when she's pregnant. She's like, all right, let's go, let's do this thing. For me, it was like, all right, I want to get serious with my work. What do I got to do? I should really start thinking about this and look.
This is when you first got pregnant, or you were?
Yeah. So this was around this time last year. I just started to like think about like, okay, I'm gonna really start throwing and being more conscious about the kind of consistency in my forms when I throw mugs, because I got this like small gig with a coffee shop in the town that I teach in, and she was like, hey, I like your mugs, maybe you can like sell them there. I'm like, sure. And then it started with one form, and then I really started paying attention and changing the like vessel form, and really started honing in on like lightness, handle shape, and I guess utility, like design, and just like comfort in like the mug. And then that pushed me to kind of like hand building, which kind of combined, I am everywhere, kind of combined.
It's okay. It's good.
Yeah. So I guess a couple years ago, hold on, I'll tell you why this relates. A couple years ago, I took this like summer art course for a week, and my teacher was Carol Hazel Drake. She is, where does she teach? I want to say she teaches in Portland, and she was teaching us like how to do slab, but with porcelain, and how temperamental and diva-ish, I would say bitchy is the word, that porcelain is when you handle it, especially when you're hand building. And so she had us do like pinch pots with porcelain, and we had like multiple little pinch pots around because, when porcelain gets warm, it gets floppy, and so we had to continually pick up and put down pieces. But I made this shrine of like somewhat thin porcelain, and I like covered them in underglaze and fired them. And then I did a smoke firing, which is I literally just barbecued them on a barbecue. And I allowed the smoke to cover the surface of the clay, and it made this really cool kind of earthy, raw pattern on the surface of the bisqueware. And I liked that. And that idea would forever like follow me into like my later work. And I really wanted to focus on the rawness of clay when it's bare, especially when it's exposed to the natural elements.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was pregnant, I started etching all these ideas of what I could do with slab, and maybe combining it with smoke and then natural elements like wood. Because this particular shrine that I built, I had strung it up on a branch and it just hung there. And so I really like this idea of tying natural like wood and like string to something that is very handmade, per se. And so yeah, I guess I answered that question. But yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to be serious about my work. Like, I guess it was like, I really can't do anything until like after the baby's born, because I'm going to be spending my time raising him. So I guess was like, I was on a deadline. That's why I got serious.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think for me, it was kind of like, oh, like, I think kind of reflecting back, I think for me, what prompted it was like, oh, shoot, like, I'm no longer going to be like just me and my wife. It's like me and my wife and my kid now. And like understanding like how much of my life is going to be dedicated to my kid. This is me, right? Wow, this is what, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm losing part of my identity. Like I'm kind of like, I can't be me. And I had friends telling me, it's like your life changes. The day your kid is born, your life is forever changed. Yep. Your priorities are completely different. Your life is completely different. And they told me, it's like, yeah. And then it happened. I was like, oh, it happened. And it was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. And it was like, I needed something that was like still me, like the old me or something of like that. I need to like not be just like husband and father. I need to be like just Ryan. And I'm like, it's like Ryan Reich Ceramics. It's not Papa Reich. It's not husband Reich. It's Ryan Reich Ceramics. So it's like, for me, I needed to have that, like, no, this is the thing that I still need to do. And my wife knows, it's like, you need to go do ceramics. Like, you need to go to the garage and, like, throw some pots or paint some shit and, like, hang out, because for me, like, this is what I need, is to, like, get away from everybody. And then I think there's been a part of me, I've been doing ceramics such a long time that I've been, like, you know, I was paying attention to kind of, like, watching people grow as artists, and then feeling like I was just getting like passed. I was like, man, I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm just like not pushing myself to like be more than just a high school ceramics teacher. Like I want to be a ceramic artist. And I think I was like, I've been in some local pop-up shows, and at that point I haven't even submitted to any open call for entries, other than the stuff that I did like right out of grad school, which was like 2008. So it's like years ago. It was like 8 or 9 years before that. So I was like, oh, like I need to get my foot back in this art game, and I need to figure out my own art thing and just take it a little more serious. And definitely the kid was a good, like, hey, you need to still be you. So
totally.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, the whole being a parent. And so how old's your, do you have a boy or a girl?
I have a little guy. Well, he's not little.
Yeah.
He is 6 months old.
Oh, okay. So he's crawling around, moving around.
He wants to. He's rolling.
He's rolling, yeah.
He's rolling.
He's trying to crawl.
Yeah.
And this is your first, right?
Yeah, this is our first. But yeah.
Are you gonna have more?
Yes, I do.
That's good. Are you gonna do you have a idea like how far apart you want them? Like, are you gonna?
So funny. I've been awesomely blessed with like an amazing husband who understands my ambition to like be a ceramic artist and get serious about my work. Like to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to be applying to residencies. I have 2 years. I will apply this next year, this spring, and then the year after. So I'm giving myself 2 years. And then I was like, if I don't get accepted, and then I will put it on hold. And then at that point, I probably will be getting pregnant again.
Cool.
So yeah, he'll be 3-ish, maybe 4.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I have 2, and I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're like pretty close in age that it's been really hard. But it's like good, but it's hard. Like they fight so much now, like two little boys, and it's just like whatever the one has, the other one wants, and it's just like. And then they're like so cute and they're so good and they take care of each other and they're nice. And then a second later, they're just like, and the second later, they're like both screaming and crying, and I'm just like, I just want to like.
There's two.
I need to go to the garage and do ceramics. Like I need a ceramics rig. Like I gotta go trim something for but you gotta go to my happy place. Mm-hmm. So I got a couple questions here.
Okay.
The first one is from Earth and Bones.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna tell what he says, but I think that doesn't make any sense. He says, "What class do you usually play?" But I'm guessing like maybe what music do you play in class? Let's just say that. Do you play music in class? And what?
I play. Okay, so I think I might know who this might be.
This is no.
Earth and Bones?
Yeah, he's not. I don't think he's one of your students.
Okay.
He's someone that I know. I'm like Insta friends, and he's Taylor Smeltzer.
Okay, so I think what he means is I'm a D&D nerd.
Oh, okay.
So that's the only thing I can think of. So.
Oh, okay. Maybe maybe I don't know.
Because there is a bunch of D&D stuff on my Instagram thing. Right now.
Oh yeah, you know what? I was kind of Insta stalking you, and I did notice there was some stuff that didn't make any sense to me, and
okay.
I did play D&D for like maybe a summer when in high school.
Yeah.
But I remember the 20-sided dice, the 20d40 and or 20. I don't know.
I got you.
I remember I was a swashbuckling elf.
Yeah.
I was a swashbuckler, and I had a fucking rapier sword, and that's all I remember.
Do it. So right now I am my one character. She's in the Adventures League right now, which is like the official D&D license league. I have a half elf bard. She is like a belly dancer, and she's hilariously failing at her job. It's funny. In the past, I've played a human ranger. I've done a Goliath barbarian who is not dumb, but just simple. I do voices and everything. It's great.
It sounds like fun.
Oh, it's fun. But I do play music in my classes. I play everything from yoga music to alternative rock to classic rock to like what is Beats Antique? Kind of like techno, like tribal music. I play everything.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I probably played more of probably too much 90s and 2000s stuff, but kids listen to what they get. Okay. The next one is from Queen Caroline Hanania. She's my student teacher this year.
Okay.
So she asked, do you do art critiques in your class? And if so, how do you conduct them?
Okay, so I do art critiques in my class. Not so much for ceramics, but for my other classes, like for visual art classes. So I got this critique from the Art of Education. It's an online website. If you don't know what it is, look into it. It's an online art website for art teachers. And they have like resources available for you. And they have this tag critique. So it literally is like TAG, T, tell something you like about the piece. A, ask a question for the artist. And G, give some feedback about how to improve it. And so that's what my students do. So they get sticky notes and they go around the room to every art piece for like maybe 5-6 rounds. And they leave a tag sticky note that's anonymous on the artwork that they critique. And so when the original student comes back, they have like 8 to 10 sticky notes from a variety of kids in the class.
Mm-hmm.
And so they use that critique in their actual self. So I really emphasize process and writing in my classes, and they have a written critique talking about their process from what struggles they ran into, how their final draft changed from their rough draft to the mid critique. Like what advice did you get? How did you apply it, or did you apply it? Kind of thing. So they're reflecting on the whole entire creation process. So the critique is a part of that. I'm trying to like incorporate it more. It's just really hard to remember to include a critique, especially in like the midway point for everybody. So if you like as an art teacher trying to be mindful of where everyone is in a room is really hard, especially when you got like 3/4 of the kids that are like halfway done, and then you turn around the next day and like they're almost all done. You're like, well, can't do the critique because you're done. So
yeah, it's timing is really hard in art classes. Do you get all different levels of students?
Yes, I do. I get a large.
You got everybody. You get the spectrum of.
I got the spectrum.
Yeah. I think all our teachers get like the highest of the high and the lowest of the low and everybody in between, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Yep.
The next one is from Lizzie Grigio 29.
Okay.
It says, how do you teach full time with a baby and still have time to make your own pottery?
Oh my gosh, I'm still trying to figure this one out. So, I think honestly, communicating with my husband what I want to do is like probably the big thing that has been helpful. I think I figured out a system since I'm a 4-day school week. Communicating with whoever's watching Austin for the day, like give me 4 hours, I'm gonna go work on my stuff for a couple hours and then I'll come back. But it's intentionally leaving time for myself to create, even if it's simply because I always carry like a sketchbook journal full of my ceramic ideas in it, and even if it's just that, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Or even because I have a wheel at home, and if I just even get on the wheel and just throw and not have anything like, a goal in mind, and Austin's outside with me, it's fine.
Yeah, just playtime.
Yeah, honestly, I'm still figuring it out. I mean, it would be easier maybe when Austin is a little bit more engaged in that, like, oh, mom's playing with clay, I'm gonna play with clay now.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Do you teach summer school, or do you have the summer off?
I have the summer off, but I had in the past been I teach private classes for throwing, and so not this year obviously, but in the past I've been pretty busy. So, but yeah.
So it's cool though if you have the summer off and you and Austin can hang out and.
Oh yeah.
Just hang out in the studio. And do you have a garage studio or basement studio or?
It's a carport.
Carport. Okay. Oh, so it's outdoor. It's kind of outdoor.
Outdoors. Yeah.
Oh, so that'll be perfect in the summer.
Yeah. So it's great. The thing though I have to watch out for, especially on like hotter days, like it's not completely covered, and so light gets in. So if Austin's outside, he'll get warm really quickly, and so my time is generally cut short because of that.
Yeah. Next question. Fruit Loops, FROOT.LOOOPS. That's one of your students, I think, maybe.
Yeah, she's.
And it's a very nice question. It's what got you into ceramics?
What got me into ceramics? Oh, I think I told her this. What got me into ceramics? So when I was in college, since I was a newly declared art major, I had to do, like a presentation of my skills. All juniors in the art department had to like, all right, this is what I've learned so far. This is what I can do. And at that point I was like, okay, I've taken some hand building classes. I can make something. And I started playing around with clay more and really discovered that I'm a tactile learner, and I really like having the ability. I'm gonna sneeze. Okay. I like having the ability to be in control of something, not per se on the wheel, because I was hand building at the time. I liked being able to completely express my ideas in clay form, where I knew what I was going to make most of the time, versus like when you drew something, you may or may not get it perfect the first time. Clay is a little bit more forgiving. So I guess that's when I realized that ceramics was kind of that niche that I really wanted to delve into. I really got into ceramics because it's a very physical engagement process, and it's almost meditative. I tell my throwers, never get on the wheel mad, never. Yeah. Because you will never create anything. And as I really got serious about like reteaching myself how to throw, I found that it's like a meditative, reflective process. I mean, there definitely were times where like you're sitting there thinking and just going through the motions, and you like wander down lanes of your past and your memory that you didn't think would appear because you were just going through that physical motions of bowling. And it's meditative and frightening but beautiful at the same time. So I guess it's that aspect of, I guess, space of, I think, of being that I liked about ceramics.
So sometimes I think about like this, it's always people say, oh, the wheel's so meditative and stuff. And then if you ever like go, sometimes you see those hypnotist things. And sometimes you see the hypnotist thing and it has like a spinning wheel.
Yep.
And I swear, I guess sometimes when you're just throwing and you just kind of like, you're just staring at that spinning wheel. There's something about that spinning, just kind of just focusing on a fixed point with a spinning wheel.
Yep.
And I think it's something, maybe it does something to your brain where it just kind of, maybe as we become more experienced ceramic artists, it's almost like a switch in our brain where we like see the throwing and we're just like, ooh. And I'm like,
yep.
Like, I don't know. To me, sometimes that's what it seems like. It's like, I don't know, something about this, just staring at the spinning wheel. It's just like, it's like you're hypnotized, but then it's like it engages a part of your brain or part of your soul, your spirit that just makes you just, so many people just get on the wheel and it's like their happy place and they can't explain it. And, right now I have students. So my beginning students haven't gotten on the wheel yet. They're like hand building, and I only have like 10 wheels and 33 students, so I kind of got to rotate them. But I kind of have I sometimes have a little bit of the Karate Kid method of like teaching ceramics, like the wax on, wax off. Like you watched the old Karate Kid?
I actually have not.
Okay, so
I need to. It's on my
Mr.
list.
Miyagi, right? He's teaching Daniel LaRusso. He's basically having him do stuff around the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's like paint the fence. I want you to paint the fence this way. And then I want you to like wax on and wax off and wax on and wax off. And he's having them do all these like chores around the house. And he's teaching them, like, I'm teaching you to do these like movements. And I'm having you do these movements through using a different thing. It's like I'm building a foundation for you. Mm-hmm. And then once you have a foundation, then we can kind of expand on getting better. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, at the beginning, like, I want them to make good artwork, but I'm like, you need to make like pinch pots. You need to make a coil pot, right? Like you need to just make the work, because I'm not pushing them to be amazing artists. I want them to go through the motions of like learning how the material works. Like learn how to manipulate clay by pinching, by coiling, by slabs, by attaching things. I mean, good craftsmanship. But I don't really push the artistic part for these first like 6 weeks. It's kind of like boot camp.
Oh yeah.
My brain, it's like ceramics boot camp. We're just learning clay. So I'm like, I don't want you guys getting on the wheel, because I know how the wheel is for some of the kids. Like once they get the wheel, they're like, I don't want to touch a rolling pin to make a slab. Like I don't want to roll out coils. But it's like, no, you need to learn all that stuff. So when you get better on the wheel, we can start playing, and I don't have to reteach you like, how do I make a handle? Like make a freaking coil and then start from there. Or like, if you can't pull a handle, make a coiled handle. Well, you make a coil. It's like, well, no. So
yeah, I know, right?
I have students at this point who are just like, I think they kind of hate me because they want to do the wheel, and I'm like, you can't do the, like, we're not doing the wheel yet. Like, we're not ready. I'm not ready to teach you guys the wheel. Mm-hmm. So like, you gotta wait. And after this next project, I get them on there. So it's I don't know. It's my
classes are like that too.
The whole process is, we all have our methods and our philosophies about how we're gonna teach somebody or teach a class of students like how to teach ceramics. Like, there's like a textbook, and I have a textbook, a class out of ceramics textbook, and I never use it. And it's like,
how to teach ceramics? Where are the wheel throwing?
Oh, it's like it's like a textbook for ceramics. It's called like Exploring Clay. Oh. And it's a legit like high school textbook for ceramics. Okay. And it's like, and it's not bad or anything, but I'm like, why would I want to use a textbook when I can just like
do the thing?
We can like do stuff and talk about the stuff we make and learn about these cultures by like copying or being influenced by their artwork, as opposed to like writing big long essays about it. Anyway, Next one, it's from Little Martian. I think it's Haley.
Yeah.
And it she asks, what was the hardest thing for you to learn while throwing?
Oh, what was it? I want to say like probably bowls. Because right now my throwers are learning. They just finished. Well, they should have learned how to do cylinders. And they were like, I can do bowls so good. And I taught them bowls this week, and they're like, no, I can't do it. Because you got to learn cylinders first before you do a bowl.
Yeah.
And so I think for me was probably actually, yeah, no, I changed my answer. The hardest thing to learn, honestly, for me was, oh no, take that back. Hardest thing for me to learn was figuring out how to center. Because everyone centers differently, and
Mm-hmm.
I was taught, and modeled like you gotta, like straddle the wheel and then like put your hands on the left and right side of your ball of clay. And I did that, and I would never get it centered until I figured out that if I moved my hands diagonally and then tried to center, then I was able to center. And I guess it was being allowed to experiment with the centering process or even the throwing process. Did I learn how to center, then eventually pull? Like, and the same went for throwing. I mean, not throwing, pulling. Like
Mm-hmm.
being able to like, oh, there's more than one way how to pull.
Yeah.
And so I think that for me was the hardest part. It was like, all right, I'm literally copying what my teacher's doing, but it's not working for me. What am I doing wrong? And being allowed permission to, you don't have to do this like me.
Yeah. It's hard because it's like a feeling, it's a movement, it's a pressure,
Mm-hmm.
it's a comfort, and all of our bodies are different, and we're different. We have
Yep.
longer arms and shorter arms, and
Or shorter torsos and longer legs.
yeah, our torsos and legs, and
Yep.
it's a challenging thing to teach people, but and some kids get it right away. Sometimes I'm just like, wow, like you've never done this? There's some kids that they can watch the demo and they're like, okay, and they just have a good feel and a good touch.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had kids where I'm just like, oh my God, like I'm never gonna be able to teach this kid how to throw. Like I've had a couple kids where I'm just like, I can't, like you just can't do it. And then some of them have been like have proven me wrong by just being persistent. I'm just like, you figured out what works for you and you make terrible pottery, but I give you credit for like being persistent.
Oh,
And
yeah.
like just some kids, I'm just like, your hands are just like little, you don't have the like your brain and your hands can't just talk. Like you can't understand. Like I always do the like firm handshake. I shake my kids' hands all the time. I'm like, firm handshake. Like shake my hand.
Yes, I agree.
I'm like, shake my hand. And I'm like, do you feel my hand? Like I'm not trying to squeeze the shit out of your hand. I'm just trying to like keep my hand into a shape and be firm with it.
Firm, yeah.
I'm like firm, and like I'm not trying to squeeze you. I'm like firm. And they're just like, okay. And then I'm like, they put their hands on it, and I'm just like, they're just like, or they're just like, it's like,
yep.
Dude, you have to like, and then I'll just be like this, and I have all my little like ways that I like show them how to do stuff. Like one of the like I use because I'm always doing the analogies, and I always tell them like Mr. Krabs when I like recenter their pieces because they screw up, like you've halfway screwed up, and I can like recenter it, and I'm like Mr. Krabs. I always tell them like if they're like they've opened it up, they centered and they've opened it up, and at some point of opening it up, it's gotten off center and it's got that wobble. Like Mr. Krabs it, where you just kind of like, and just, Mr. Krabs, and hold it. And, I try to tell them that, and I show them, I'm like, just put your hands like Mr. Krabs and hold your, however thick the walls are, just hold your hands that thick and just, just be like a machine and just, and it's like, oh, okay. And then and they explode off the wheel, or they just, the wheel just like kicks their ass. And I'm like, can't you just listen? But I'm excited. I'm excited and terrified to start the wheel with my beginners because
it's fun.
It's like a very chaotic, interesting. And some of the kids, I'm like, ooh, I didn't like you, and now I like you. Like, okay. But I know I have this one kid in particular who's like, he's super, like, he was having my TA first period, and he's like one of my advanced kids. And he was like, I got my first week or two. I'm like, I got nothing for you to do. He's in my first and second period. So I'm like, yeah, if you want to get set up and get started and start throwing. He's like, cool. So he starts like throwing like halfway through first period. And the one kid he's like looking back and he's just like, when do we get a throw? I'm like, not for a couple weeks. And he's just like, oh. And then he's just kind of like, and he's been kind of like not into my class since. It's like, you told me no. And Danny gets to throw. I'm like, well, Danny's in the advanced class and he's my TA. And
yep.
Sorry, like you can be in the first group, but and he's been an uphill battle. He got suspended already because he's like,
Yeah.
He's one of those kids. He's one of those kids, but those are like my favorite kids.
They're fun. They definitely are.
The kids that are like not into school, that kind of want to like those kind of borderline kids, who are just like, I'm like, okay, like I want to make sure I do my best to be a reason for you to come to school every day. Like, how can I make my like how can I get you into my class so that you're like, well, I don't want to go to school today, but I got to trim those bowls, so I guess I got to go to school. And so hopefully I hope that kid kind of comes around and ends up being a good young potter and makes a lot of nice pottery on the potter's wheel. And hope the wheel sucks him into the class. What I always ask everybody about, kind of based on the title, do you have any awesome ceramic disasters or injuries, or have you exploded a few double pinch pots in your life, or stitches or anything?
I can answer both those questions. So my disaster, this probably was like in my second year of teaching ceramics. One of my students comes up to me and is like, Swanson, I want to build a man's torso. And I'm like, wait, what? And so she hand builds this huge ass men torso, like from collarbone down to lower abdominals, huge and thick. Hand built it. It was beautiful, and it was great. So she was finished with it, and we let it to dry for 2 weeks. At the time, I remember it resting on a bunch of paper because I didn't want it, to rest by itself in the event that the weight would cause it to crack and sag. And so I left on the paper for weeks, but paper absorbs moisture, and so the clay wasn't dry when I had let it sit out for like 2 weeks, nearly 3 weeks. I thought it was dry. It being so large, I had to tip it on its short end instead of laying down. It tipped up in the kiln, and I'm turning up because I have a kiln setter, my largest kiln. I use a kiln setter for basic wiring, and about 5 hours in, I hear thump thump side of the kiln, and I'm just like, the kiln wasn't, like really hot, and so I carefully lift the lid to peek, and the pectorals had fallen off, just the pecs. And I closed the lid, and I'm just like, oh my god, this is gonna suck. And so I pulled.
Like, how do I tell this kid?
How do I tell this kid that I broke your piece?
Kinda. It was a collaboration.
Yeah. So I pull her out, and so class is going, and I pull her out, and I knew she was gonna get emotional, and I tell her, your piece broke in the kiln, and she starts welling up, and I told her, I think that's the cool thing about high school students is if you tell them that you broke it, they're a little bit more forgiving. However, if another student breaks it, they're pissed. So she was, and I was like, I'm sorry, it wasn't dry. And then she's like on the brink of tears. I can still see her face to this day. And then I'm like, well, look, hey, Gwen, you don't know something funny? And she's looking at me like, kind of like, how can this be funny? I'm like, well, his pecs fell off. And then she just starts smiling and laughing. And luckily the piece didn't break all the way. She was able to get every piece and glue it back together, and it was fine.
Oh.
Yeah, so that was the fun story, but she was just devastated. So that was my only disaster that I can think of. My injury.
So those kids sabotaging your clay or each other's clay. I know some of your students listen to this. If your students listening to this, you shouldn't. That's illegal in the world of ceramics to sabotage somebody by stabbing someone's hand.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I don't know why, but I had some kids last year hide tools in bags of clay, completely. Kids would be cutting off clay, and they'd be pissed.
Teenagers,
so pissed off. Anyway, so my injury, I was unloading a glaze load, and
Hey, thanks for watching or listening to my conversation with Pilar Swanson. It was great chatting about art education and high school ceramics teaching and teaching in the high school level and different perspectives and different ways that we approach it from, different backgrounds and different teacher things that we do as teachers. Anyways, like, rate, and review, and subscribe to Clay's a Four-Letter Word on whatever podcast platform you listen to it on, or if you watch it on the YouTube. Appreciate all the feedback I get, which is not very much, but hey, it's okay. You can always just Google it, and I'm hoping to get episode out next Tuesday. I'm not sure. I'm in a little bit of a rut right now as far as just too much on my plate, to be honest. And I can't eat it all. There's just too much shit on my plate. And this is one of those things on my plate that I sometimes struggle to get it all put together. I'm trying really hard to make my own work and work on that stuff. So I have had some kiln issues. A couple of the coils on my electric kiln went out on the last firing I did. I was firing for like 26 hours and realized something was wrong and should shut it off, and tested it out, and so I gotta get some new coils for my kiln. Just isn't a fancy one, it's a Crest, but I got $300 to fix it, so that's $300 I'll spend, and hopefully I got some mugs for sale in the near future, which can help pay for the coils, or the elements. So I had a failure of a firing here, and then I threw them in the kiln at work, and they turned out okay, but I wasn't happy, so I threw some more glaze on there and touched them up a little in some spots, so because I want them to look as good as I can, and I fired them today. So tomorrow I'm unloading, and hopefully today's Monday, the 14th of October. I'm unloading them tomorrow, and I'm hoping to have a Etsy update in the near future. I will be posting it if you're listening to it in the next day or so, or this week of October. If not, if you're listening to it in the future, then this doesn't make any sense. So anyways, check out the grams. My Instagram is at Ryan Reich Ceramics and at Clay's a Four-Letter Word. My Instagram is always the best place to get a hold of me. I don't ever do Facebook. I'm on Facebook, but I don't ever go there, so it's pretty much a waste of time for me. And I've written some stuff today that good old Facebook guy Zuck, he's selling us out. So I think I might be deleting Facebook again permanently. Even though I know Instagram's connected to Facebook, I guess I live in a little bit of blissful ignorance, thinking that it's not the same, even though it probably is. We're all being watched. I don't know. I don't know what the hell's going on anymore. Anyways, my name is Ryan Reich, and thanks for hanging out with me and Pilar Swanson today. Thanks to my wife and kids for letting me do this and putting up with all my BS and insanity. Appreciate everybody playing along and hanging out and listening on a weekly basis. Hoping to get one out next week. I'll try my best. Like I said, it might become a bi-weekly thing, and I might just suck it up and figure it out. I don't know. Definitely not the last one, but I'm not sure when episode 17's out. But anyways, thanks for hanging out with me and Pilar today on Clay's a Four-Letter Word. Peace.